Hi, my ASP peeps, and welcome to another episode of Conversations in Focus, where we get to know the wonderful members of the American Society of Photographers. I'm Marissa Belletti-Lavoie. I have a fabulous guest today, number one under the sun. Let's give it up for a round of applause for Bob Coates. Woo!
You are just so cute. There's no doubt about it.
You're so cute. I'm so excited. Anytime I get to talk to you, Bob, I'm very excited. So
And it
introduce
goes it goes
yourself.
both ways, Marissa.
Oh, where are you calling us from today, Bob?
Sedona, Arizona, the beautiful red rocks about midway in the middle of smack dab in the middle of Arizona.
Quite picturesque.
I have lived in uglier places.
Oh, that's very nice. And tell us your PPA creds if you have an hour to talk.
I can give them to you pretty quick. I know I saw your, some questions, and I became an ASP member in 2002 when I got my craftsman degree. I've been a member of PPA since 1997. Got my craftsman in 2002. Got my master of photography in '06. And then I was never going to do the artist. I was like, I don't need that. And then one day I said, okay, I need a challenge. And so I became a master artist in 2015.
Woo.
Oh, I guess I should throw in the educational associate degree from ASP when I wrote the paper on vocabulary. Got to know more words to make better pictures.
Your ASP Educational Associate paper is fabulous. I have read it and it's available on our website if anyone would like to read Bob's what do we call this? Just an educational associate or is it a thesis paper?
It's a EA paper, yeah, educational associate paper.
It's marvelous, and thank you for bringing that up because I don't think a lot of people hear about the educational associate enough. So as much
There's
as
a bunch of really nice papers in there. Just dig into the ASP website a little bit, and you'll find some little bits of magic.
oh yeah, go down a whole rabbit hole of getting to know our members a lot better. And the fellowship papers as well is a
Yeah.
deep dive into knowing each other. So good job, Bob. And I see your awards hanging behind you or your medallions. And
Just
how long
start
do
there
we
and go up to about there.
your bar streak is about this long at the bottom. A
Uh,
good foot.
yeah,
Does that
it's up there.
hurt when you wear it? Is it heavy?
No, I work out, a lot before convention.
You lift them before you leave.
No,
Brilliant.
and basically, just so people know, this is not for showing off. This is I heard this from Ralph Romagera. It's the best quote I ever heard about why we wear these medallions. Number one, we're charged with wearing them to events by our governing organizations. But more important, this is permission to ask questions. If you see somebody with this stuff hanging around their neck, that means they participate, they care, they've worked, and they're happy to answer any questions. So when you go to convention, look for that stuff and then go, hey, I have a question.
That is I want to put that somewhere, you know, because I used to feel intimidated by them. And if anything, I felt that maybe as somebody that I would be afraid to approach. And you saying that it's the welcome wagon and the signal for it is so correct. Like, it really is the symbol of we have participated and we've worked hard and we'd love to tell you and share it with you. And if you have any questions about the journey, reach out.
Exactly. Permission to ask questions. I love that quote from Ralph Romagera.
Beautiful. Well, Ralph sure knows. So 2002, you've definitely been the around the longest for out of the people I've interviewed. In your years with the ASP,
There's been
2002.
some huge changes.
Yeah.
When I was a first ASP member for a number of years, I was kind of, why am I a member? Okay, it's part of, there was some benefit. You got to mingle at the convention, but pretty much it was kind of that.
Yeah.
And then in let's see, I don't want to leave anybody out, but I think Leslie Ann Kitten was a huge driver for change and adding all sorts of new things. And then the people that she worked with and brought in expanded it even more. And ASP is such a freaking dynamic organization now. It just blows me away. And I'm really proud to be part of it.
Thank you, Bob. We're so proud to have you be part of it. And Leslie is absolutely, she spearheaded picking the right peeps to take it into the development we've gone through the past 5 or 6 years or so. And now ASP is definitely the place to be. And we got it going on. Thank you for hosting our award ceremonies too. It's always delightful. I made you
Well,
the
they send
thumbnail.
me the script. I try not to mess it up too bad.
You do a wonderful, Bob Coates. So we'll talk about your photography now a little bit. What is your current favorite genre of photography?
I would, well, making pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is no favorite. It's whatever I happen to be working on now. Like right now, I've got my water drop set up in
Mhm.
the studio, and that's a rabbit hole that you can, if you ever decide to do water drops, you want to set that up and be willing to work with it for 2 or 3 days because it's just like you have to go in deep to get good ones.
Yeah.
But obviously, the night sky. I guess if I had to pick one, it would be night sky. And the fact that I'm able to do the workshops and share that with people is just amazing. And oftentimes I'll even just go out by myself, even though I with no students. It's like it is just so beautiful. We have a Bortle 4 here, and that's the brightness of the sky, so it's not too bright from the ambient light that's around, so we can see a lot of stars. It's just
Mhm.
it's pretty spectacular.
Wow. And you have given us a lot of education about your photography via our Zoom programs.
Well, Zoom programs, and then also I've written a bunch of articles for the ASP magazine. Um,
Yes.
you can dig
Thank
in
you.
there. Also, the Photographer magazine over, from Texas School, or that neighborhood. Um, yes, I found out my raison d'être. Is that the way you say it? Is that the proper
I
pronunciation?
like it. Yeah.
Okay, it's French for it's my reason for being, and I think it's to teach and share. I love watching the lights go on when somebody's sitting there and you explain something and they're still like, so I have to know like 3 or 4 different ways to explain any one thing that I have, which makes me learn it even better.
Yeah.
So I get a little bonus out of that. But when somebody's sitting there going, no, I don't quite get it. No, I don't quite get it. And then you try one more way, and then it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. And when I see that light bulb pop up, that's just very exciting for me.
The first image I ever saw of you was your headshot with the mind exploding.
Oh man,
And that I feel like is exactly what you're saying right there is you love to see all of the things happening and connecting in people's minds and really having those epiphany moments.
well, it's weird because I was one of the first to start doing weird headshots. Well, I was with WPPI, and I was just doing a practice thing, and I wanted to see if I could put my head on a platter.
Oh.
So I took a headshot and I put it on a platter and I did it, and I got it all done, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I sent it off to WPPI just for fun and said, oh, Bill, what do you think about this for a headshot for my program? He goes, I got an email back about 10 minutes later that said, oh my God, yes, this is great. And then my wife walked in and saw that on there. She says, you're not going to show that to anybody, are you?
No, no one.
No, hun, it's only going to be in the magazine for 15,000 photographers, but other than that.
No one's gonna see it. That's so funny. Yeah, that's awesome. I have seen that one too. And you're so cool, Bob Coates. Good for you for pushing it a little farther. I'm a big fan of that as well. I need to get back into crazy self-portraits where I let my mind explode like that. And top educational human right here. Absolutely. Even when you said your first degree was your craftsman, you're educator all the way through.
Yeah, like I say, I really, that's my joy.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. I feel like I am a teacher as well. I came in with the craftsman too, and then the artist. So I thought that was one of the trajectories I could have went in my life was art teacher. So it's very interesting that that ended up what I am. So, Bob Coates, what first inspired you to become a photographer, and how has your journey evolved since then?
Well, it started in high school with art. And when I was doing my art projects in class, I would sit there and I would get to a certain point and I wasn't getting what was in here down there. I couldn't get, and it just wouldn't. And I'd tear things up. My art teacher would come running over. What the heck are you doing? That was fabulous. I'm like, no, it wasn't what I wanted. um, so I kind of got out of trying to create art and picked up photography and started out with black and white and had a dark room. I have to thank my now wife, who was at that time my girlfriend, um, who we went on vacation. I borrowed a friend's 35 millimeter camera and took some pictures. She says, you look like you might have some talent there. A couple lucky pictures because I didn't know anything about lighting or anything. And my wife, at the end of the vacation, my wife said, what? Would you mind if I bought you a camera and some lenses so that you could pursue this? And I was like, well, okay. And then along the way, won some, a contest here and there, was a stringer for newspapers. Again, that's pretty much straight photography, although there was some, it was artsy fartsy within the straight photography genre, if that makes sense. And then just kind of grew into it. I did commercial photography when I decided to become a professional. And there was a guy named Jimmy Loveland in the Virgin Islands who says, well, just because you call yourself a professional photographer doesn't mean you can be one. He was like an advanced amateur and had a Hassie and all that, and I was like, okay, I'll show you, Jimmy. And then within a few years, I was, one of the, if you said, who would you hire as a photographer? I was one of the three names that would be mentioned on the island of St. Thomas. And then right as I got to that point, my wife said, I can't live here anymore because of all the hurricanes. We got to move. So we ended up landing here in Sedona. Long story there, not going to go into that. But essentially, we ended up here in Sedona. And I knew that I would not be busy for that first year. So I decided to really lock into Photoshop. So I spent a year while I was building my business here, really working in Photoshop, getting better at it, and then started teaching it. And by teaching, I learned so much. So that's, like I say, I have a little bit of personal, like, oh, this is for me. But my teaching is for everybody, but it's also to make sure that I really learned something.
It's the best kind of teacher. We
Yeah.
all
Well, and then, along the way, one part of that story is while I was still in the islands, I was doing commercial photography and I was never going to do weddings. No way. I'm a commercial photographer. And one of my waitresses, because I was tending bar on the side while I was starting to build my business at night. And she came up and she said, oh, you really should, do some of these little weddings that we do. We have these little elopements. And the people come in on the cruise ships, they hop off, they get on the beach, they spend an hour on the beach getting married, you take pictures of them, blah, blah, blah. And she says, you're spending an hour with these people. It's the happiest day of their life. It's a hoot. And I was like, oh, I don't know. She says, come with me one day. And she did 5 different weddings on 3 different beaches. And she said, oh, by the way, I made an extra $40,000 doing this last year. I was like, okay, I'm in. So I
interested.
started doing those, and when I came to Sedona, I worked in the same neighborhood, and then moved up into really high-end weddings at some point. With the full, the albums and the full day-long coverage. And oh my goodness! And my wife finally said, "Would you please stop doing weddings?" And it's not that I wasn't making huge money; it was that it was just such a big time suck.
Yeah.
You you don't get paid by the hour, but man, your hourly rate goes down exponentially as you really do it well.
Oh man, weddings are so much more than the day.
So way more. You have you have your sales, you have your initial meetings, you have your pre-shoot with the engagement session, then you have your bridal shoot, then you have your full day of, and then you have all your processing there.
All the processing.
And you know what? I don't want to talk about weddings.
Either. Same. Ever. But good for the people's doing them. I love you.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's a special person who can
Can
produce.
manage their energy like that.
Yep.
Not I give it all too much and then I'm tired.
Okay. Well, and then from there, then I went to back. I was when I moved to Sedona, I was still doing my commercial work, and slowly but sure, I was not really ever wanting to do work, lead workshops and stuff because I had a little bit, and herding cats is not really my my cup of tea. I helped lead a photo tour to Italy with Jim Chamberlain,
Ooh.
and when we did that, it was like, okay, I don't want to do this for a living. It was interesting to help out somebody else who organized the whole thing, but now I found my little niche with doing 4 people, maximum in my workshops in Sedona for the night sky.
Yeah.
And that has become just the right number where everybody gets super personal attention and doesn't no harassment on my part.
Yeah, 4 is a nice number of people to work with.
Yeah, it was 6, but then I couldn't fit them into my studio, so I went to 4.
And 4 people can go in a car together if you need to carpool. It's nice. I like it.
So that's my photography story and journey as far as that goes, I guess.
Can we take a little side turn to when you were a DJ?
Sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
How did how did you know I was a DJ?
I know everything about codes.
You know. Okay. That was my first love, was radio and television. I was working late nights at a 7-Eleven store, so I was the night manager. They give you a title to make you feel good, so they don't have to pay you money to do it. And then I would be like, at midnight, I'm like, "Oh, you want a Slim Jim? Okay, yeah. Oh, you know what? That cheddar cheese, that sharp cheese really goes da 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 da." Anyway, I had always, as always, lots of energy and made the job fun as much as possible. And there was this guy who kept popping up to the end of the counter, and he's wearing, long hair, ponytail, 3-day growth of beard all the time, dungaree jacket. And he'd stand there, he'd have a cup of coffee, and he'd watch me work. After about the 6th time he was there, he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I'd really like to get into radio." He says, "That's funny. I own a broadcasting school." So I said, "Well, that's cool, but I can't afford it. I'm working nights at 7-Eleven." He says, "Well, come down and monitor a class." And to make a long story short, I ended up going to work for him. I never actually finished the school. And then he sent me out to Chicago to run a broadcasting school that he bought. And I did that for a while until he had overexpanded too much and he was pulling back out. And I was going to Columbia School of Broadcasting. They had headhunted me, and I had a thing where they, that was a real job too. That was with like insurance and money and the whole 9 yards. But I said, I have to give my 2-week notice to my guy first. And I'm going to take a 2-week vacation to the Virgin Islands. One of my instructors had, been there for a while, and he moved back to the islands because he had emphysema. Again, long story short, I ended up going to work for him at the radio station, a brand new radio station that popped up in St. Thomas. I had done some radio in the States before that as well. I was named 3rd place in small market country music radio as a DJ from Billboard magazine. And then probably my piece de resistance for being in radio was I ran a we were trying to really get the name of the brand new radio station on the air and let people know about it. And when we changed our focus from how can we make people know about it to how can we raise money for Special Olympics, and put together this program, and I did an air-a-thon for Special Olympics, and I stayed awake and broadcast 24 hours a day for 100 straight hours.
Oh my goodness. A
So,
100 straight hours?
yeah, I did sleep for 24 straight hours after that was over. But that got national headlines and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I can't do any more in radio down here. So I moved back to the States to chase my radio career for a while, met my lovely wife, Holly, and we moved back down to the islands, back to here. So I've had an adventurous, and I am so very fortunate. I have to watch out what I wish for, because usually I get it. Now, that doesn't mean I don't work hard to do it, but I do have to be careful about that.
Oh, wow. It's gonna take me a minute to digest all that. I do love the staying awake for 100 hours. My oh my, Bob Coates. That's
yes,
wild.
And there was no drugs. And I also learned that you can't work underneath fluorescent lights for that length of time. After 24 hours, I was like,
oh no.
And we realized I was seeing the flickers from the fluorescent lights, so we turned that off, and then went to incandescent lights. I had medical help there. There was a nurse came in every once a day, and I was eating the secret is you eat very small meals multiple times a day, very gentle, very solid.
Aww. This story is so it's so incredible.
Well, the really good part was every single we ended up raising like over $11,000, and every penny went to Special Olympics, to the kids. Nobody bought a car, nobody bought a desk, nobody paid rent. It went right to the kids for their program. So
wow,
that was one of the caveats that we had as part of doing the thing.
Wow, very cool. I love you said you have to be careful what you wish for because you get it. And I guess that's what like manifesting your destiny is, you just say it enough. You got the power, Bob Coates. You got the power.
Again, I am very, very fortunate.
Well, hashtag blessed. So,
okay.
I'm gonna Google all that after too because it's wild. What do you think the most rewarding aspect of being an ASP member is?
Watching other people grow. And I remember when you first came aboard and how shy you were, even though you're Miss Sassy. You were a little shy amongst the people that were there. Again, you felt that intimidation thing.
I still am.
You shouldn't. These are permission, remember. But it's I just watching you grow, watching you get your degrees, and all the things that you brought to the table, watching the changes that are happening in ASP. Like I say, it's become a very, very dynamic organization.
There's so many things going on in so many different directions, and always new wheels turning and cranking to think of how can we make this association better for the people in it. Now we have our Best of the Best book is going to come out, and it's just a cool time to be an ASP member, that's for sure. Well, Bob Coates, I love you, and thank you for all you do for the ASP. Do you have any current projects or exciting work that you're pursuing or fun announcements you'd like to share with our people?
As I said, my raison d'etre is being rewarded. I'm going to get the education award at PPA. I get to walk, and I was so shocked and surprised. Apparently a lot of people got together and said, Bob should probably get this award. And I was, when I heard about it, when Mark called me and said, I was like, why is PPA president calling me? What's wrong? What did I do now? And he said, no, I like making this telephone call. He says, the weird thing was nobody has ever had so many people nominate them for for an award, and he says the board saw that and went, yeah, go ahead, make sure he gets it. So
Absolutely.
that's really kind of that's okay. If I talk about
Bravo.
this much more, I'm going to cry. So
Oh, I can't wait, Bob Coates. I'm going to yell my face off when you cross that stage. And you're so deserving of it. And it's wonderful. And of course, it was unanimous. I was sort of surprised it hadn't happened already, but I'm excited to be around when it's happening and to yell for you and woo and go nuts because you are absolutely top educator. And thank you for all you do for the PPA and the peoples in it. Where would
uh,
we be without you, Bob Coates?
it's done a lot for me as well.
Yeah, I feel so that's wonderful. That's happening in February, right? The first weekend.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Everybody that's in Texas, please head to the auditorium and whoop it up for our dude over here. And what else you have going on? Any workshops or anything coming up?
I have all my workshops are listed for the, for the online. I also do private mentoring if, anybody needs some very, very specific stuff. Not everybody needs the 3-day workshop. Maybe you just need one night or just need some time, Photoshop online stuff, whatever the case may be. Got all that going on. Always,
Wonderful.
and I'm doing a bunch of stuff for Platypod. I've been, I'm working on doing some images for them, showing how to use the gear in creative
Ooh.
ways.
Tell me what platypod is.
Platypod is a camera support,
Hmm.
and basically it's a plate, but it has all sorts of screws and holes, and you can run microphones and lights and things off of this one little plate.
Ooh.
You can kind of use it as a tripod without it being a tripod. Like you go to a place like zoos or whatever, and they say no tripods. Well,
Mhm.
you got this thing. You can set that on a trash can or strap it to a rail, and then you have your ball head attached to that. And I use them sometimes in place of a full-size tripod when I really want to stay super light. It can pack down to about this big and be about 22 inches tall, and you can put that up on a rock or strap it. They're pretty creative little stuff. A
Yeah.
pediatrician designed this stuff. He was a photographer before he was a pediatrician, and he's been a photographer for years, and he's been designing this stuff, and it's the stuff works.
Yeah. Genius stuff now. Brilliant. I love inventions. I
So
love
you'd
gadgets and inventions. I
oh
bought
you'd
this
love you'd
thing.
love Larry. He keeps coming out with new stuff, and then he calls me a week or two before things are sometimes a week or two. He's now gotten to where he's given me a little bit more time. He's like, Bob, I need a really cool image to go with using this piece of equipment. Yeah, when do you need that? 3 days from now, or a week from now, or 2 weeks. Is like, okay. So it pushes me to be, more creative because, it's like, okay, here's the parameters. Make something really cool happen within those parameters.
Yeah, like a fun challenge. That's a cool
Yeah.
relationship to have with somebody like
And
that.
actually, if you go to platypod.com, I've written probably 40 or plus blog posts for them, utilizing the equipment in a lot of different ways.
Wow.
Um, they
That's
also have a platypod.
fantastic.
They also have an educational channel. I've done a couple of interviews with them for that.
You're all over, Bob Coates.
Oh, I'm like horse poop. I'm all over
Oh
the place.
no. I was thinking something else like the universe, but I guess
Okay, I'm good. I can, I'm
yeah,
flexible.
you're all over. Oh, that's cool. That's cool beans. I'm gonna go check out that platypod now. That sounds like fun. I love a gadget. I bought this thing where you wipe the inside of your windshield with it's a little triangle with a cloth on it, but it's an extender pole and you can do the inside of your windshield like beautiful and I love it.
I have one of those.
You have that?
Yep.
Ah, I bought it for people for Christmas because I feel like that's where we're lacking as humans. It's doing it ourselves with the
Reaching into the corner on your windshield.
yeah, it never is right and it's always frustrating. And this is no miss. So I love a genius gadget. Yeah. Well, You're a delight, Bob Coates. Where can we find you on the internet and be friends with you?
Let's see. We've got successful dash photographer. That's successful-photographer.com. That's my website for photographers. bcphotography.com for my commercial work. And let's see, coatesart.net for my artwork. And if you go to photofocus.com, that's photofocus.com, and put in articles by Bob Coates. I've been writing for them for about the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. Again, I'm kind of all over the place. Instagram, Bob_Coates, and Facebook. You just look me up. You can find me there. I got a couple of those.
Love it. Bob Coates is everywhere. International, worldwide.
Legend in my own mind, for
You are a
sure.
legend.
In here.
I love it. I love it, Bob Coates. Well, I look forward to seeing you in real life at Imaging. And thank you for being on this program. The ASP
Oh, you're
loves
very,
you.
very welcome.
And if anybody else would like to be on this program, I'm going to be doing them in real life at Imaging. And that should be fun and interesting, you know? But I think
Always.
that I'm almost wrapped for my online interviews for this year, which is also fun. And I love you, Bob Coates. You the man.
Well, you make me blush, Melissa.
You're so cool. Okay, goodbye, our people. We love you.